And he did that. And he put down $8,000 and made over $100,000. And the business did get soft, and he did make up the difference in his business. And so doing that works. But I have to explain, it takes a certain type of individual to short the market or to use puts, which is relatively the same thing. And it's not for everybody. And it has to be suitable. You know, I don't want to get a letter from a woman 87 years old saying, hey, I want to short the market and buy puts. And I would dissuade her from doing so because the chances of her expiring are very good. And that wouldn't be a suitable investment for her. But if her son, 55 years old, called up and says, well, I want to do it, I'd say, okay, if you really want, I'd explain all the pitfalls. So you have to be fair in your recommendations and make sure that they fit for the people involved. Now, I have one last question here from Chris. I find it hard to believe that dealers will be able to convert someone's gold into blue dollars for that high market price of gold and still make a profit in their business. Well, that can happen. Let's say 2 years down the line, they devalue the dollar, hypothetically now, 1 for 10, and the new dollar is a blue dollar. You had to give 10 old ones to get 1 new one. And at the same time, the price of gold went from $1,000 to $9,000. There would be buyers and sellers at that level. And so there's no problem, whether it's a blue dollar or a pink one, being able to sell gold. The big question is, do you want blue dollars? Maybe they're just as bad as their predecessors. So you won't know until you get there. So we know the path to follow. We don't know what the ramifications are going to be. We try to guess the best we can and hope that we're correct. And thus far, we have led a charmed life. Never in history that I know of, and I've been at this 50 years, has any newsletter ever had more winners than we have, not only in the stocks, long and short, the coins, but getting out of the stock market, getting out of cash value insurance policies, which are invested in the stock market, getting out of annuities for the same reason, getting out of real estate. We got out everybody at the top of the market. No other newsletter has ever done that and told the people the truth at the same time. And there are lots of newsletters out there who don't tell people the truth. I know, I read them. They lie by omission. They just don't tell you. And the main reason is usually they're afraid to. Or they want to be accepted by their peers. And I quite frankly don't care what anybody thinks. And I've always been that way. And you might call it a renegade, one who thinks outside the box. Potential terrorist, that's what the government calls me.
Yeah. Because
I disagree with them. And the other people just won't do that. Some of them will, but there's only a handful. And on radio, there's actually more on radio than there is in the newsletter industry. I mean, I barf at some of the stuff I read. I mean, some of these guys have been wrong year after year after year. And people still listen to them and still lose their money. People got to be dumb as dumb.
Well, it's like we said at the beginning of the program, there's some of these stories are all the way back. You can read them right in the Bible, how the markets can be manipulated. Joseph did it 4,000 years ago or whenever it was. You know, and it's right there if you care to read. People don't want to read. That's the unfortunate characteristic. And unfortunately, the people are more interested in being led than being helped to think. And I don't know what you can say. It just seems to be human nature. You can't say that it's wrong. It's the way people seem to be. But for those of you who are inclined to read, and you do want to do a little thinking, Bob's been talking about his newsletter. And again, if you'd like a complimentary copy, give Discount Gold and Silver a call. We'll get you a complimentary copy at 1-800-375-4188. Catch whoever's there at the office and just tell them, give them your email address and tell them you'd like a complimentary copy of the International Forecaster, and they'll get one out to you. Do you have some more questions, Bob, you want to answer?
No, that's it on my end. I only had 3 of them.
All right, I've got a couple here. I've got one that's pretty simple. Here's one from Bob. Well, no, it's to Bob. It's from could be Bob, hard to say. It's B. Hansler. And he says, Bob, will we be flat here on gold price until August, which is usually strong for gold? In other words, the next 2 months going to be basically flat, or do you think, do you see that it's going to move either way?
I think that during the summer, that the stock market will go down. It's already begun its descent. It actually started 8,400, even though it went up to 8,800 on the Dow briefly. And it's back down in the 8,400 range right now. And just a 20% to 30% correction, well, say 30%. Actually, it's 8,497, which is almost 8,500. Now, that would take it back down to 6,600 again. And I think that's going to be motivated. Number one, professionals know the earnings aren't going to be there. And number two, the markets are way overpriced. We saw the same kind of a rally in 1931 in the bear market that was the Depression. And this is just a replay. In the third week of July, you're going to see the beginning of earnings, and the financials report early, and they're going to be lousy. And that's going to take the market down a little bit more, maybe down to that 6,600 level on the Dow. And then in September and October, I think they'll break 6,600. And it's hard to call it that far ahead because of all the manipulation that goes on. But I think there's a good chance of that. Now, to answer the gold part of the question, I laid that out because the markets are going to be under pressure. The price of gold will try again to go through 1,000. Technically and fundamentally, it's all ready to go. And the government has stepped in time after time, and it's been overcome each time. We had 2 rallies like this last year, and I think what you have to do is watch the short position on the COMEX in gold and silver. Not so much silver, because the positions aren't as large. But in gold, yes. The short position is 226,000. And 2 banks have 55% of that position, which tells me they're acting for the U.S. government. I believe that the commercials who are working for themselves rather than for the government, I think that they will cover their shorts in this area, 925 to 940. And maybe the government won't, but they will, because they know it's coming. And I think gold will go up all summer, and I think it'll, between August and the end of the year, I think it'll just explode. And so we've got a good shot here. And you've got the overhang here of announcements by Germany, Switzerland, and Dubai about their gold. I mean, this information is going to get out. If they don't get delivery, they're going to be complaining. It's the only real money they've got. And if the U.S. won't or can't deliver, there's going to be a scandal. And so that's going to help gold. So I think all gold is sold.
It's not just a question of a scandal. It will be essentially an admission that if I understood previously what you said earlier in the program, you were guesstimating somewhere between 2,500 and maybe 3,000 tons of gold might be missing. Did I misunderstand you on that or not?
No, that's true. But we don't know, because we don't know what the U.S. has sold. And look what happened last week in Canada in a vault. Lo and behold, the gold's missing. Well, where did it go? Well, there's only two logical places it could go to.